Right, hello. We are taking a look at Hookshot Robot, and I am joined by ZAFT. Hello, how are you doing?
Yeah.
All right, so I've already started playing the game just to get familiar with the controls, but while I start playing through this level, can you tell me a little bit about your background in game development and your role on this project?
I'm mostly a hobbyist. I'm a professional developer, not for games, for work.
Mhm.
But I've been doing game dev for maybe 3 or 4 years as like spare time. Um, and for this game in particular, we had three people. The other two are quite young. They're very talented in music and art. They're teens still. I'm in my 30s. Yeah.
So were you like using your production know-how to kind of like guide the game development process along?
Yeah, like I had like build scripts for everything and so on right as the gem started. So I was trying to make sure everything kind of is stable and works for the most part and let them do their creative stuff.
Nice. No, that's cool that you could sort of like shepherd things a little bit. Um, do you like when you said that you've been doing game dev as a hobby, like with Godot specifically, or have you experimented with any other engines?
Unity for about a year, and then I moved to Godot at around the time where 3.0 came out.
Right, nice. Artmoon is asking if you are for hire for the next GMTK jam.
We can talk.
It sounds like need somebody to keep me in check in terms of stability of the game. Uh,
Yeah, sadly, I think we have 3 bugs confirmed so far, which is more than I would like, but I think it's considering how hectic the last day was, I think I'm quite happy about it.
yeah, so why don't we talk a little bit about the actual process of the development? So what was the sort of like order of things on your end?
Went through a brainstorming as the first thing, as the theme was announced. It was very hard. We felt very not inspired by the theme. And after a couple ideas, we decided, okay, you know what? Like climbing is a very cliche and obvious interpretation, but let's just do that and like let's move, right? Because this
Yeah,
is getting into paralysis.
yeah, that's a good call.
Um,
Yeah, you can only sort of like keep spinning the wheels for so long before you need to just pick something and go with it.
I think around like hour 6 of the gem, we had the controls pretty much in the final state, and we didn't touch them again.
So who actually did the level design for the game then?
It was kind of a joint effort. Mostly was JJ, the guy that did the art. He also did most of the level design. Um, I did a little bit of adding, like I think it wasn't enough, but I added a little bit of like mercy
Mhm.
afterwards, like easier routes. Um, and the other guy, the Netherpug, did most of the decoration, like the light, the backgrounds, things like this in the levels.
Yeah, no, the palette and everything, like the parallax background, like it all looks really nice.
Yeah, they're incredible. Like it's very good to have my things look good for once, as I normally do solo development and I'm not exactly good at art or music. So yeah, this is a good feeling.
Absolutely. Um, so what do like? Would you say there's any specific inspiration behind this project, or just like climbing?
We thought about like down well but up very loosely.
Yeah,
Um, but not really anything too specific. We're like, oh, hook shots are cool. Let's do that.
yeah. I was wondering if what's it called, doodle
Oh, you
jump?
touched the
I
checkpoint. You
know, I
touched the.
saw that it put me back to the beginning. All right. I I'm still expecting spacebar to make me jump, but it does not. It fires a hook shot instead.
Yeah, that was one thing that we went through. Like, we're gonna do like one mechanic, and we're gonna focus everything on one thing. I think adding jump would have made the scope too big. Like, level design would become something completely much bigger. I think we couldn't be able to polish it in time.
I think it makes sense to understand that this is your area of focus and that the like the you're right. The existence of having a jump would mean that you're sort of tempted to use it as part of the. Oh, and it restarted me on the level again. It would be part of the sort of game's control palette, and therefore you'd be tempted to make scenarios that involve jumping and using the grapple hook. So I think keeping the focus makes sense. It's just it is hard to suppress that instinct to try to jump. It's something that even in some of the games that I've made, I've added a like pressing S or down makes your character crouch, even though it functionally does nothing. It's just a like something to kind of clue you in that the game is responding to your inputs.
Mm. Yeah, like the poor man's attempt of that was make the normal jump buttons fire the hookshot. But yeah, I understand that. Makes sense.
Absolutely. No, and it's purely a matter of I just need to get used to what this game expects of me. It's just in a platforming context, it's hard to shake that instinct. That's all I'm remarking on.
Yeah, and very late we decided that we like some of the levels had a bit more width, and we decided against that and kind of rejiggle them to be like one screen in terms of horizontal space. You really focus. No, you're just going up. Like it's not a normal platformer. There's just this one thing that you do.
Yeah, I think it naturally makes it a slightly more arcade type experience to have this style of level. Like you're very clearly conveying that this is a game that's not about exploration. It's just about going up.
Yeah, the other thing was too the lateral movement was like it's boring. You just walk, and it's not really interesting in any way.
Yeah.
So making players do that would just not be good.
Yeah, it's true. I think that it's very important to like keep your focus in that sense. In terms of like you understand that a game like this is all about the verticality. So yeah, best to just emphasize that.
Yeah, you are currently on the last level before the boss, just so you know in terms of
okay.
time.
Well, that's fine. I mean, even if I finish the game early, I'll just restart from the beginning as we keep doing the interview. So what was the actual process like for the levels that you worked on? Like, were you... 'cause I'm always curious, for the way that I design levels, I actually have like a bunch of different ways that I approach things, among those being sort of... It's almost like a guess and check. It's like I build something and then I try it. Like, is this possible? And then I keep going. But how did you approach level design?
I think we really wanted to make sure that you learn a couple of annoying little details about the movement, like the thing that you cannot overlap to hook, that you have to go lower, so to kind of demonstrate that early. And the other thing, I believe, unless we did it by mistake, the first level, you have to use the momentum after the hook to grab the next platform. Like you cannot finish by landing on every platform and waiting for it. Mm-hmm. So like teaching these little things that forces you to learn a little bit about the game. Yeah, this is something I personally quite struggle with after this phase where you teach every single mechanic in the game to then make levels.
Yeah.
For me personally, it gets much harder because like, what am I trying to do now?
Yeah, I guess I think about it in terms of like, once you've taught the player each individual mechanic, well, first of all, you can kind of have a hybrid approach. Like you can teach a mechanic, then stress test the mechanic, then teach a new mechanic and stress test that one, then go back to testing the player on the very first skill that they used, then test the player on the second skill they used, then introduce a third skill. Like you can kind of vary it up in terms of a like A, B, A, C, A, B, C, like kind of going on like a back and forth layering, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. but on the other hand, like we were like 10 levels is the maximum because of the time, right? Like so there was not that much space for that too.
Yeah, and the other thing is like this is you've got this like one mechanic, and like I'm sure you could just make like infinite levels that where your character is just going higher and higher, and there's just more floaty things, but at a certain point they are going to start to run together. So I think it's a good call to just call it and say like, yeah, this is you have fully explored this idea.
The critique be too short, then this is boring and repetitive.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, the very beginning of this level is so hard, like just getting over there.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Okay, yeah.
There's some of these like kind of misdirections in some of the levels too.
Yes. Oh, okay, this is interesting. I will restart this level in a second. And Doobie, thank you for the follow. I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly, but make sure you use the submission form and not just the link in chat there. Oh, interesting. So restarting at the checkpoint doesn't actually restart the level.
Yes. Ideally, I would well, that's kind of tricky because there's middle of the level checkpoints, right? So
yeah,
I think ideally there should be a way to do both. Probably go to the menu to actually restart the level, but that's not present.
Right. What am I actually supposed to do for this boss?
Well, it's the same thing that you cannot overlap when you hit him.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so I think I just must have missed the hitbox slightly.
Yeah, we kept increasing the size of the hitboxes and increasing, and in the end, we still got a lot of feedback like they're not big enough. So I'm not even sure because I don't think making them bigger would make you feel better at this point. I think it's already kind of too big.
Mm-hmm.
Like the last stretch.
Oh my gosh. You definitely do have that kind of it's an issue that I see in some games where like if you make one mistake, like a chain together, right? Like if you fail, you can fall so far and not catch yourself.
Yeah, the first version didn't have the pause when you hook, and you could also spam essentially. And we slowly moved to more this like pause frame and kind of really prevent like it's not supposed to be something that you can just spam the button. You have to really time it.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good call. Like the being deliberate about it makes sense. It's interesting that we sort of start the game on these like moving side to side platforms, and then we actually don't see that elsewhere in the game.
That's a good point. I think one of the scrapped levels had them. The other thing that we ended up not using was like we had like a dialogue thing, like you type the dialogue on the screen, like the box effect, and the boss was supposed to kind of annoy you as you play, kind of like Will You Snail, like, but we scrapped that for a time.
Yeah, so the decision to make it so that the grapple can't be fired until you land and try again, like it's all very like you gotta sort of get it right the first time.
Yeah, there was a I don't know if it's the right decision, but it was a conscious decision.
Yeah. I would say that I can understand having a cooldown on it. I do think that there are some situations like in that last level, I kept landing on a sort of invisible, the very edge of the platform. So I was able to save myself, but I do like generally the idea of being able to save yourself if you screw up, even if it ends up being more difficult in some way.
Yeah, this was something like I was really not wanting for this to be very ragey, and but the mechanics kind of lead in that direction to some degree. So this was a struggle to not give so much of that feeling. I really not a fan of rage games. So yeah, I had a lot of like internal debate about this during
Yeah.
development.
No, I have absolutely experienced a similar thing with the games that I work on in terms of like, yeah, just because I can beat it, I want to be able to beat it consistently. I don't want people to have this experience of like it's technically possible, but you just have to kind of get lucky. Like I want something that I can reliably and repeatably beat.
I agree. But apparently, at least the people that are really going hard at it, like going for first place on the leaderboard, they sent like videos, and it's a lot better than what I can do, for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh, you've got the little like text like names of the at the bottom of the screen there. I'm not always reading those, but
And that's like a nice thing if you read it and you notice it's fine, but it also is not intrusive.
yeah. So what would you say is the most difficult problem that you came across during the jam, and how did you solve it?
I think finding a way for it to be fun in a way that it's not too simple. I think the solution was really to add the timer. That was it's a kind of a cheap solution in a way, but it was what we went with. Um, yeah, I think that was really the main thing, and we ended up not having levels until very late, but that's more a scheduling problem than a design problem.
Was that because of just trying to get all the mechanics in place before you started making the levels?
Yeah, and like real life stuff happens, right? So you lose somebody for a couple of hours in a day, and then so
Yeah.
on. Just three people, but still, the amount of things that can happen with three people is a lot.
Yeah, yeah. No, we were coordinating between a few different people, and I was facing some really bad insomnia during this jam, so it was my team was losing me to some frequent naps.
Yeah, it's
Uh, are the enemies on a specific cycle? Like, is there a way to know that they're going to be lined up with each other?
and if you notice, they pause as you hook to them. So you
Uh,
even if there was, it would break the cycle anyway. Uh, that I would have preferred to have a more planned version of that. Especially that there's one level where if you play perfectly, you have to wait 2 seconds, and that
right.
that drives me insane because yeah, because of the speed nature of the game.
I mean, I think that there are a couple ways you can get around that. Like, you could make it so that like when you're hooked onto something, whatever the enemy itself freezes, you can make like every enemy on screen freeze.
Clever solution. That's a good one. Yeah, did not think of that.
Did we win? Yeah, there we go. Hey, we got through much faster that time.
Yeah, and this thing at the end was kind of. I felt like it was too easy, and this is not harder than any of the levels. It's quite. I think it's easier than level 3. Uh, but it's kind of after you went through I just beat the boss and I'm relaxing, so it kind of hits you with well, like one last challenge. It was designed in that direction.
Yeah. No, I think it's a nice sort of denouement on the experience. And I'm gonna say that I'm happy with a 23rd sort of like dead middle of the road place on that. I'm 1 second
Apparently,
behind.
there was even some like dispute at the top. I think there's somebody that like there's a T-Bow cheats.
Uh,
Somebody like the number 4 score, I think.
oh,
Like I think Tebow was at the top for a long while, and I think somebody was maybe upset that I don't know. It's just funny. That
yeah. So the have you made a game that has this kind of like timing or leaderboard implementation before?
yeah, some of my favorite gems are the Squarespace gems that
Hmm.
they require a leaderboard.
Right.
So yeah, and I noticed that you get a lot of plays, you get a little bit of community, like you get a lot from it in a gem. And I try to include some degree of that if it's score or time or anything in that direction in, in all the games now.
Yeah. No, I think it's a really great way to motivate players. It's just I think you either know how to implement a leaderboard, well, like an online leaderboard, or you don't. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
And we did a prep jam for it. It was Jam, the Discord jam from Ludundare on the
yeah,
weekend before GMTK. And like we got people sending us screenshots of, oh, I got this far in the game, but there was no leaderboard because it was just 2 days and there was no
right.
time.
Yeah.
And that felt bad, you know. That so like okay, we'll make sure this time that we add something.
Which one was that?
Yeah, this was the
Zorbit?
one for the 2 day jam. Yeah.
It's very pink.
Yeah. Is I think it's just 4 colors, the palette.
Yeah, yeah. Black and white and then two shades.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. No, that's a really great idea. I think in terms of organization, like it's really good to identify where those like gaps in your organization are coming from and to take the time to like just get used to working as a team. So I would absolutely advocate for that. We kind of tried to do that on our team, um, but we didn't get things didn't really come together. Um,
To
oh,
answer
we got
the chat
yeah.
question, yeah, you don't need a server. There are free services like there's Loot Locker, there's Quiver. They all have a free tier. Some already give you even the UI, so it's not really that big of a deal to do it.
Yeah, I think it's really additive to include a leaderboard, and there are free ways of doing it. In our case, I believe our team is using a Firebase server, which is a
That's
Google
also an option.
service. Yeah,
There's also Supabase, that's more general purpose database. That's also has a good free tier. There are many options, yeah.
yeah. Um, all right. So, in terms of other questions, I guess the only other thing I'd like to ask is like, do you have any plans for the game going forward?
I think fixing the bugs at the minimum, and probably maybe adding a couple of levels that I feel like are missing, but not much more than that. I don't think this is seeing like a full-on game from this.
What bugs are you referring to?
On a Mac, I don't understand why none of us use it, so it was never caught. Apparently, the menu stays on screen, and
Oh,
no idea why. Um, there is a bug in the final boss. If you during the death animation, you also grab an enemy and kind of there's a timing thing where you get frozen and
uh,
you're soft locked. That one that feels bad, right? That's
oh,
horrible.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thankfully, only 2 people mentioned that, so I don't think people are running into that very often because I think it's something that people would be angry and they would really tell you about it if it happened to them.
Yeah,
So it seems to be rare. And the other one, if you really mash the start button, apparently you can like start the game multiple times and you kind of run multiple instances of the level. Yeah,
oh, interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, that was something. That was a bug that I discovered in a game recently, where I was able to press start, or like I was able to press continue, but then I still had menu control, so I was able to press like new game as well. So I started the game in this like corrupt state where it thought it was a new game, but it actually loaded me onto the level that I was on before. Like it's stuff can get really weird if you don't disable menu control after a user presses the button.
Yep. Yeah. Not disabling the button. Yeah, disabling the button is so simple, but it was missed this time.
Yeah. All right. So, and I guess like how has feedback been so far, and just overall?
I think there's a lot of people that are having fun and enjoying the speed aspect of it. There are people that are frustrated because it's too punishing. And there's always this spectrum of things that not everybody likes, but I wouldn't necessarily change. Like the hookshot thing that you cannot jump. I don't know if that makes sense for this game in particular. So yeah, it's a very broad spectrum. I think it's mostly positive, but yeah, there are people like, oh, this is so annoying. Of course.
Yeah, I think that you're like, it's the luxury that you don't have in a game jam, is being able to be a little more selective with your audience. Like even in a game on Steam, like you are trying so hard to communicate what your game is about, because you want the right kind of person to get into your game. You want somebody who's going to find that kind of experience enjoyable and then hopefully leave a positive review for your game and all that kind of stuff. And it's not always possible to line up with those expectations.
Meta game a little bit and look at games that are similar to yours on the game jam and like go review their games, because they're probably more likely to like what you did as well. But yeah. I don't like doing that so much. I rather just let people, and like my goal is not really ratings, is more improvement over time. So yeah. So like, and I think I have enough understanding of like, is this person just don't like this type of game, or is this something that I can improve on the game? I think I can differentiate between these two things.
Absolutely. Yeah, because there's somebody who just like doesn't like it because of taste, and there's somebody who's like giving you legitimate feedback of like, hey, this is a thing that I think you could stand to improve about this experience. And then you can say, well, you can kind of be selective about that. You can have this sentiment of like, oh yeah, you know what, I think that they're right, or actually I understand why they're saying that. This specific feedback that they're giving might not be correct, but I can do something different and address this symptom without sort of taking their exact suggestion for it.
I even have an example of that. Like the thing you also mentioned, that overlapping doesn't really feel good, that you cannot do that.
Yeah.
And that the hitboxes are not matching or something. All of that could be solved, I think, with just like highlighting or giving some vision that you're about to hook to this thing if you press the button right now.
Yeah.
And that would solve, I think, all these in a way that doesn't really change anything in the game. It's just communication.
Yeah. Yeah. Better communication like that is always helpful. I think that I still think that if you are directly overlapped with something, it should count. Like you should be able to like latch onto it and immediately spring off of it, just because it feels awkward to basically be like right on top of something and quote unquote miss it.
I agree. I agree. That also opens though that if you're overlapping with something and you try to grab the thing above, then it feels bad, right? So it's a problem either way. I think probably the best would be to let the overlap be valid and have level design not run into that. Probably it's the best solution.
Yeah. And it's tough, as you said. Like you don't want one solution to cause a problem elsewhere, and a lot of game design is that. A lot of it is those sort of games where you push down one thing and two things pop up, and you try to you're playing this game of like trying to make sure that everything clicks down into place nicely. And it's not
Yeah,
always possible.
yeah.
Sometimes you just have to like embrace the fact that there's going to be some sort of cursed problem in your game. Like there's a GEC talk that was about cursed problems in game design. Sometimes you just run into those.
And I think even the overlap situation would, like, the feeling of it would be better if the communication was different.
Absolutely. I mean, the highlight I think is a really good idea, just because that also gives you a sense of your range of your shot. Like you'll know if you're going to latch onto a platform or an airborne guy or something like that. So that is a really great like small change that I think is worth making. If you decide to make changes to the game at all, if it's just a hobby project, it's fine to just kind of like set this aside and move on.
Yep. Yeah, I'm as others said, I'm kind of dragging people into solo jam this weekend as well. But I intend to at least fix the bugs, and probably the highlight. I'm of two minds. If it ends up being like a half an hour thing, I'm doing it. If it's more than that, probably not.
Yeah. There's so many of those situations where people are saying like, oh, don't you just want to make this one change? It's like, no, it's not worth it. Like the number of people who are going to come back and play this game after the jam is over is minuscule. Like as much as yes, it would be nice, but it's not always worth your time, unfortunately.
And if it's something like I don't know how to solve that, I'm much more interested, right? Like the highlight, I know, like I can do. There's nothing that I'm going to gain from that as a personal improvement. Yeah, so that's also plays a role.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. In terms of well, I should say, if anyone has any questions from chat, now would be the time to ask. But just in terms of like, do you have any other projects or social media channels you want to plug?
I think just my each page. I've been trying to do a few gems to improve my skills. If you're interested in the type of arcadey thing I do, check it out.
I'm seeing that the emojis in the titles is a bit of a recurring thing as well.
Yeah, because I learned that you can give a noun to your game in itch, right? And you can put an emoji there. And since I learned that, I started using it for every game I make. Because like if you look at the run button, like if you open any of them,
yeah,
it says run this thing that is an emoji instead of saying run game. That's the noun. And also when he loads the game, it says loading this thing for the first time, which is just a little bit of like quirk and personality that I enjoy.
Yeah, it's a fun detail though. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the stream and talking about the game. It's definitely fun. I like small nitpicks aside, it is really like nice polish overall. So well done. And yeah, if you have any other projects that you participate in, if you do end up participating in the, would you say the solo jam or the one this weekend?
3-day jam. It's a 3-day jam this weekend. It starts, I think, in 2 hours.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's from Practical NPC and Captain Coder.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, best of luck if you do end up participating in that, and if you'd like to come and share it on the stream, I'd be happy to take a look.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Yeah, indeed. Looking forward to it. Oh, it might have even started already.
Oh, well.
Okay, well, best of luck, and yeah, have a good weekend. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you, bye-bye.